Hey there, welcome. Today, we're going to sharpen one of the most important tools we have, our words. We're going to dive into 20 essential words and phrases that will help you say exactly what you mean with a little more precision and maybe even a bit more style. Let's jump right in.
You know that feeling, right? You've got an idea or a feeling right on the tip of your tongue, but you just can't find that perfect word for it. We've all been there. Well, in this explainer, we're going to hunt down some of those words and fill in the gaps in our vocabulary. All right, first up, let's look at words that help us paint a picture of the world around us. Places and the people in them. Think of these as the first set of brushes in our new descriptive toolkit.
So, our first pair of words describes two very different kinds of places. On one side, we have urban, which is everything related to city life. You might hear about urban planning or an urban environment. Pretty simple. Urban equals city. And on the flip side, we have rural, which describes the countryside. We talk about rural landscapes or a quiet rural town. So, urban for the hustle and bustle, and rural for the peace and quiet.
Okay, next up, the word folk. It's a really warm, friendly way to talk about people, usually a certain group. You might say country folk or hear someone say, well, folks, that's all the time we have. Then we have the verb pollute, which means to make something dirty or contaminated. For instance, exhaust fumes can pollute the air. The noun form is pollution, which is a huge issue that affects all folk, whether they're urban or rural.
Now for a great word, phenomenon. A phenomenon is some kind of remarkable or unusual event that you can actually see or observe. It gets used a lot in science to talk about things like a natural phenomenon. Think of something like the Northern Lights. The adjective form is phenomenal, which just means amazing. You could say, her performance in the play was absolutely phenomenal.
All right, let's look at a few ways to describe things that are out of the ordinary. The most common is probably weird, for something that's just odd, like, that was a weird noise. Then you have mystery, which is for something we just don't understand, like an unsolved case. His sudden disappearance is a complete mystery. And at the top, you have extraordinary, which means truly remarkable, way beyond the ordinary. For example, he has an extraordinary ability to solve complex problems. Each one adds a little different flavor.
So, we've talked about the world outside. Now, let's turn inward. This next part is all about finding the right words to describe that complex landscape of our feelings and emotions. Let's start with some of the tougher feelings. First, sorrow. That's a deep, personal sadness, like the sorrow you feel when you lose someone close. Then there's hardship, which refers to the difficult situations that cause suffering, like financial hardship. Finally, misery is the state of intense suffering that can come from hardship. Someone going through a tough time might be in a state of misery, feeling totally miserable.
But after exploring those difficult feelings, it's so important to have the words for the good times too. It's all about that balance, right?
And that brings us to a fantastic positive word, enjoyable. It's exactly what it sounds like, something that gives you enjoyment or pleasure. It's part of the joy family with words like joyful. So you could say, we had a really enjoyable vacation, or it was a simple but enjoyable meal.
Okay, let's take happiness to a whole other level. This slide shows a beautiful journey. It all starts with the verb to bless. When you receive that blessing, you feel blessed, and that wonderful feeling can lead to a state of bliss, which is just pure, perfect happiness. And the words describe that feeling? Blissful. Like a peaceful, blissful afternoon with nothing to do.
So we've covered places and feelings. Now it's time to get moving with some action words, verbs, and ideas that describe how we get things done. Here are two really important ideas about how we work. First is being diligent. A diligent person is someone who works hard and pays close attention to detail, like a diligent researcher. And that kind of diligent work often leads to incremental progress. Incremental just means happening in small, steady steps over time. So diligent effort creates incremental change. And what happens after all that diligent, incremental work? Well, you often accumulate something. To accumulate just means to gather or collect more and more of something over a period of time. For example, you can accumulate wealth by saving, or you can accumulate knowledge by reading every day. Our next action word is perform. It basically means to carry out or complete some kind of task. You can perform your duties at work, a musician can perform on stage, and a car can perform well. A common phrasal verb that means the same thing is to carry out. Phrasal verbs. They can be tricky, right? This is a classic pair. Hang out just means to relax and spend time with people socially. Like, hey, you want to hang out this weekend? But hang on means something totally different. It means to wait or to hold on to something tightly. Hang on a second, I'll be right there. Two tiny words make a huge difference. All right, we're in the home stretch. For our final section, we're going to look at the fine-tuning tools. These are words that add that extra layer of precision and nuance so we can say exactly what we mean. Okay, this pair trips up so many people because they sound almost identical. To wonder, with an O, is to think about something with curiosity. You might wonder what the future holds. But to wander, with an A, is a physical action. It means to walk around without any real destination. You might wander through a park. So remember, one is for your mind, the other is for your feet.
This next one's pretty simple. A remark is basically just a comment or a statement you make about something. It's often a quick observation. You can make a funny remark or a thoughtful remark. For instance, you could say, "She made a quick remark about the weather and then changed the subject." This quote is a perfect example of our next phrase, on the verge of. To be on the verge of something means you are right on the edge, so close to it happening. Just like the team in the quote was on the verge of a breakthrough, you could be on the verge of falling asleep or on the verge of tears. It means it's about to happen any second. And there you have it. We've journeyed through 4 different areas of our vocabulary. We've got words for places and people, words for our feelings, words for action, and those little words for detail that make all the difference. Your expressive toolkit is now officially upgraded. So, I'll leave you with a challenge. Which one of these new words are you going to use today? Pick one, maybe phenomenal, or diligent, or wander, and just try to drop it into a conversation or a text. Because putting what you learn into action is the absolute best way to make it stick. Thanks so much for joining me.